This image shocked the entire internet. A golden retriever sits motionless on the sidewalk, its snout pressed against a rusty drain, its eyes fixed on the darkness below, while pedestrians pass by indifferently. The green arrow points to the mystery. What does it see inside? Laura, an exhausted teacher who vowed never to love dogs again after painful losses, notices the animal on her way home. What seemed like hunger reveals a secret that will change everything. See below what the dog discovered.
If you enjoy these types of stories, please like and subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories like this. Turn on notifications and leave a comment below to let me know what you thought. Laura was 32 years old and taught mathematics at the neighborhood municipal school. Life, however, seemed like an unsolvable equation. At 25, she lost her father to a sudden heart attack during a game of dominoes. At 29, she watched her Labrador, Luna, die from rat poison that a neighbor had spread in the yard without warning. That day, Laura ran with the dog in her arms to the veterinarian, but the poison had already done its damage. Since then, she crossed the street whenever she saw any dog, fearing to relive the pain of a farewell. She always walked the same route from school to her two-bedroom apartment, avoiding parks and pet shops. Her heart had hardened like dried chalk. No fur, no barking, no pleading looks. Loneliness was the price of protection. On a Wednesday afternoon, the overcast sky threatened rain. Laura quickened her pace along the busy avenue when something golden caught her eye at the abandoned construction site. A golden retriever lying on a manhole cover, its snout pressed against the crack, motionless as a statue.
The dog didn't blink. Its golden fur contrasted with the rust of the lid, and its brown eyes seemed glazed over, fixed on something invisible to Laura. A low whimper escaped from the crack, so faint it blended with the noise of the cars. Laura stopped a few meters away, her bag clutched to her chest. Go away, she thought, but the animal's paws trembled with exhaustion. It hadn't moved for hours. She walked around the flower bed, but the dog raised its head and stared at her with a silent plea. Laura felt a lump in her throat. She remembered Luna doing the same when she asked for affection. She turned quickly, but the image stuck in her mind. At the corner butcher shop, she bought small steaks without thinking, wrapped them in paper, and went back. As she placed the pieces near the lid, the golden retriever licked only one, then used its paw to push the others through the gap, one by one, as if feeding on something underneath. When Laura took a step forward, it growled softly, teeth bared, body tense. She recoiled, heart racing. It wasn't hunger, it was guarding.
The next day, Laura left school early and stopped by the butcher shop before going to the construction site. She bought more dog treats and a bag of wet food. The golden retriever was still there, now lying on its side, but it raised its head as soon as it smelled the food. She left the food 2 meters from the lid and stood still without approaching. The dog ate half and pushed the rest through the gap, always vigilant. When she took a step, the growl returned, more firmly. For a week, she repeated the ritual: little steaks in the morning, kibble in the afternoon. Gradually, the dog began to wag his tail when he saw her, even though he kept his distance. Laura named him Fred because of his wheat-colored fur. She started talking to him in a low voice. "What's down there, huh?" Fred just looked, as if he understood. One Friday night, a light rain fell. Laura took an umbrella and a small flashlight. She approached slowly, knelt a meter from the manhole cover, and shone her light through the crack. Nothing but darkness and a damp smell. Fred stood up, his body tense, but he didn't growl. He just blocked her path with his snout. She put away the flashlight, her heart heavy. She needed to gain his complete trust.
Laura changed her strategy.
She stopped trying to peek through the drain and focused only on Fred. She started bringing him water in a plastic bowl and leaving it next to his food. He drank eagerly, his pink tongue contrasting with his wet fur. Gradually, she allowed her to approach to within a meter, then half a meter. When her hand finally touched his golden head, Fred trembled but didn't back away. His tail tugged twice on the ground, hesitant. Days turned into weeks. Laura would sit on the sidewalk for 10 minutes, then 20, talking about classes, unruly students, the school's bad coffee. Fred would lay his head on her lap, his eyes half closed. She started bringing him an old towel to dry his fur after the rain. He would accept it, licking her fingers in gratitude. On a sunny Saturday, Laura brought a nylon bone. Fred held it in his mouth, but instead of chewing, he took it to the crack and tried to push it in. It wouldn't fit. He growled in frustration, then looked at Laura as if asking for help. She approached slowly, knelt beside the lid, and for the first time, Fred didn't block. He just watched, ears perked, body relaxed. The bond was sealed.
That Saturday afternoon, Laura knelt beside the lid with Fred lying next to her, his muzzle resting on his paw. The sun was beating down, but the air was cool. She leaned forward, pressed her ear to the rusty crack, and held her breath. Silence at first, then a muffled whimper, so faint it seemed like an illusion. Another came, clearer, a puppy's whimper, sharp and desperate. Laura froze, her heart racing as if Luna were barking again. She turned her face away, her eyes wide, looking at Fred. The golden retriever stared at her, tail wagging slowly as if to say, "Now you heard." Laura grabbed her cell phone, called the fire department, and spoke quickly. "There are puppies trapped in a drain on Avenida das Flores, near the abandoned construction site. A dog has been guarding them for weeks." She hung up, her hands trembling. Fred licked her wrist, warm and damp. Minutes later, sirens. 2 trucks stopped. The firefighters lifted the lid with levers. The smell of mud and fear rose. A flashlight descended. 7 little golden balls huddled together, eyes still closed, meowing weakly. Fred stood up, barking briefly, jumping around the men as if celebrating. Laura cried without realizing it, hot tears streaming down her chin.
The fire chief, a gray-bearded man named Valdir, descended the makeshift ladder up to his waist into the fetid water. One by one, he passed the 7 puppies to his colleague on the surface. All golden retrievers, newborns, covered in mud, but alive. The last one still had its umbilical cord attached. Fred ran in circles, barking excitedly, trying to lick each little ball before they put it in a cooler. Laura held the lid open, her legs trembling. Valdir explained. A nighttime downpour must have swept the litter away from a nearby yard. The mother probably died or ran away. Fred, being in the right place at the right time, found the crack and turned it into his mission. He shared every bit of food, licked the puppies through the grate to warm them, and slept on the lid to protect them from the cold. Without him, they would have died within hours. Laura knelt beside the box, touched the snout of a puppy. It responded with a weak whimper. Fred laid his head on her shoulder, exhausted but relieved. For the first time in years, Laura truly smiled, feeling the old weight crack like dry bark. The firefighters took photos. One of them posted one in the internal group. Within minutes, the image of Fred on the lid was circulating around the city.
The puppies were taken to the municipal veterinarian. Exams confirmed dehydration and mild hypothermia, but all would survive. Laura signed as temporary guardian until permanent homes were found. Fred, however, didn't leave her side. When she tried to put him in the truck with the puppies, he planted his paws, looked at her intently, and barked once, determined. The firefighter laughed. "This one chose you." She didn't argue. At home, Fred explored every corner with his snout to the ground, his tail wagging like a propeller. Laura improvised a bed with old blankets. He lay down, sighed deeply, and slept for the first time without being watched.
At night, she woke up with his warm snout on her arm. Fred was dreaming, his paws running in the air. In the morning, she prepared scrambled eggs. He ate everything without pushing anything into any crack. Weeks later, the 7 puppies were given names and adoptive families in the neighborhood. Laura kept in touch through weekly photos. Fred got a new collar and a tag that read, "Fred, hero of the sewer." They walked to school together. Students celebrated, teachers asked for selfies. The original image of him on the sewer cover had already been shared millions of times. Local newspapers published the complete story. Laura read the comments at night, laughing and crying at the same time.
Fred transformed Laura's routine into something vibrant. He would wake her with gentle licks on the face at 6 o'clock sharp, wait patiently while she graded papers at the kitchen table, and lay his head on her foot during video calls with the puppy's adoptive parents. On Sundays, they would run in the empty park before sunrise. The golden retriever would dash after imaginary balls, return panting, and roll in the grass, inviting her to laugh out loud for the first time in years. Laura hung a framed photo of the viral image in the living room. Fred on the lid, a green arrow pointing to the mystery. Next to it, she pasted 7 Polaroid photos of the grown puppies, each with a name and a new family. When friends visited, Fred greeted them with short barks and stretched out on the sofa, making himself the owner of the space. She noticed that the former emptiness now had the form of golden fur and warm breath. One Friday night, after a long day of exams, Laura sat on the floor with Fred between her legs. He rested his snout on her knee, his eyes half closed. She stroked behind his ears and whispered, "You saved me, too." Fred responded with a deep sigh, as if he understood everything. Luna and her father's pain didn't disappear, but it shared space with something greater, the certainty that being in the right place at the right time can rebuild an entire heart.
Months later, Fred and Laura were inseparable. He would accompany her to the school door, wait at the gate with his leash swaying, receive affection from the students before trotting home beside her. The original photo, the golden retriever on the rusty cover, eyes fixed on the darkness, became a symbol of canine loyalty. It went viral on social media, inspired adoption campaigns, and even a mural painted on the abandoned flower bed, now clean and blooming. Laura received messages from all over the world, people who rescued dogs because of her, others who found hope again after losses. The 7 puppies grew up healthy. One of them, named Soul, returned to visit with his new family and rolled in the grass with his biological father in a reunion filmed by neighbors. Laura kept the video on her cell phone and watched it on difficult days. Fred even received an honorary firefighter badge attached to his collar like a medal. Today, when Laura looks back, she understands that being in the right place at the right time wasn't by chance. It was Fred choosing to save her as much as she saved him. The old pain still exists, but now it shares space with joyful barks, evening walks, and the certainty that true love doesn't replace, it multiplies. The internet remains shocked, but the greatest miracle happens every day on the sidewalk where it all began. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe to the channel to help me bring you more stories. Activate the notification bell and comment with your thoughts, tips, and suggestions. Keep watching other videos.